Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another episode of Mic'd Up, episode number 9. And we have a treat for you today because it's the time of the year where people in the West, well, actually everywhere in the world, is celebrating this so-called Day of Love. So we wanted to bring an episode to kind of discuss that and bring our own ideas and flavors to it and a perspective from the Islamic world and a message to everyone who's kind of in this little bubble. And our topic today is Valentine's Day. So before we get into that, please make sure that you're sharing the live stream. And if you still haven't subscribed as of yet, 9 episodes in, please make sure that you have liked and you have subscribed to the channel at Mike.416 on YouTube as well as on Facebook, and send it off to your friends and family. So make sure that you are promoting the videos because we can all learn something from them. Especially from our guests who come every week, week in and week out. So please make sure that you do that. And just want to shout out Haramain TV. We're live in Haramain Studios. So we want to thank Asif Bhai and the entire team for always supporting and supporting the season 3 of Mic'd Up. So Jazakallah, the formalities out of the way. And no strangers today. As you see on the screen, I have Hafiz Yahya with me. And again, I have Hafiz Bilal. I must say that the two Hufaz have been doing fantastic and a lot of good feedback. So may Allah give them Jazai Khair. And Jazakallah for coming. So we'll begin with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Hufaz Kiram.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. So, it's that time of the year. There's love in the air, so to speak, quote unquote. And it's February, and it's supposedly the day of love, where you showcase love for your significant other. Now, why I chose this topic, obviously, because we're drawing close. Next week is Valentine's Day, and the issue at hand is that our youth, as well as our elders, I wouldn't even say youth, I think it's everybody, is kind of in this flavor that they have to do something for their significant other on this day. So I guess let's just have a conversation in regards to that. What are your thoughts on Valentine's Day? I do have some history about Valentine's Day, but why are people... I know we talked a lot about New Year's resolution and talked about, Hafiz Yahya has always talked about, Muslim identity and confused and people who want, who need attention and all of this stuff. But why are we so engrossed in these holidays like Valentine's Day? I guess anyone want to jump in, you go right ahead.
I guess I'll start off. Nowadays, at least in the Western world, we're no longer following the religion of Islam. Follow the religion of modern secularism.
Wow.
Okay. We've pushed religious duties, obligations, and priorities as Muslims.
Yeah.
Way down the line. What we prioritize in today's day, because that's what coincides with what we do every day.
Right.
Modern secularism.
Right.
And just like any other religion, it's got to have its own holidays.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll start with the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
What does it start with?
New Year's.
New Year's.
Right.
And we've done this before too.
Yeah.
Every month there's a holiday.
Yeah.
Right? And I just think that those are the religious observances of modern secularism.
Right. Hafiz up.
I'm going to do the tafsir jahilana on this because this is what Hafiz Bilal said. He spoke at a very intellectual level, and to kind of give it to the folks in plain layman English, you have distanced yourself so much from your religion, from your commitment and your obligations as a human being, right? Because if we're talking about love, that is that is a phenomenon that is universal across all human beings, animals, and creation.
Right.
So you have taken it to only celebrate it or commemorate it or to show it for one day out of the year. What I think, and you kind of answered this when you start, and you said, I said some people crave attention, right? A lot of people crave attention. That's why they need a special day, right?
Yeah.
Why do you need to single out one day? And that too in the middle of February?
Right.
couldn't be July, August, September, in the hot months.
Yeah.
It's got to be in the middle of the winter for you to apparently be shown love because you've never felt loved or you've never had, whatever experience of love that society shows to you today.
Yeah.
Now, that's one side of things. The other side of things, if you look at it, the only people that are benefiting in this scenario or in this context is the retail industry.
Right.
They're the ones selling the flowers. They're the ones selling the chocolates. They're the ones selling the gifts, the teddy bears, the roses, all that stuff that you see. They're the ones that are making the profit at the end of the day. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you look at it like this. As a guy, you spent whatever, $100 on a bouquet. Yeah. Then you bought chocolate that
is that how much a bouquet costs now?
Probably.
No, but you have to also remember that every day is a different thing. That's another trend too, is that now every day leading up to Valentine's Day is a different thing that you have to buy. Right?
Again,
so add all that in as well.
I don't celebrate this, but you can see it. Okay, like you got flowers, you got chocolates, you got gifts, you got to take whatever her out to dinner or whatever. You have to make it basically like a very special occasion.
Yeah.
So you're already out of pocket at least a few $100s right now.
Right.
And so I don't understand how if someone truly loves you.
Yeah.
They're not if they only appreciate you for the Valentine's Day, they're not loving you for you. They're loving you for what you have to offer in terms of materialism. Right. So they love what you have to offer. They don't actually love you. Yeah. So they have an infatuation to the fact that you have deep pockets or you're creative with the way you like to celebrate.
Yeah.
But they don't actually love you. They're fake.
Right.
They're not real.
Yeah.
The real love is shown if you look at, for example, your own parents, the struggles, the different conflicts, the different times that, through everything, through thick and thin, they stayed together. They went through all that. They never showed it to their kids too. That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you call true love, because love is not one day or one night or 1 week. It's over a lifetime.
As you were talking, I was thinking about a couple things. Let's say, okay, somebody wants to celebrate. But let's say somebody wants to take their mother out for Valentine's Day. What would you say to that? Because look, I'll be honest with you. I can't sit here confidently and say that I know the definition of love and what love is. I don't know. You can't describe it in words, or it's a feeling, or all of this stuff. I think all of that is made up in to your point, the secular world, and that religion has made it so buying flowers is love, taking them out for dinner is love. All of this is considered love, but truthfully, love is when we all went to Medina al-Munawwara and we couldn't hold back tears because it was just a feeling of uncontrollable. It was an uncontrollable feeling, and it was just us bursting out in tears when we entered even the city of the Prophet ﷺ. Is that love? I mean, what is actual love? We don't know. And I feel that, to Hafiz Saab's point, that people are engrossed in just the world, and now they're kind of, I have to do this. But my point is, like, to this topic, and I want you guys to touch on it, is our Muslims are so engrossed in this. The Muslim youth and adults, they're in there. They're going to stop by and buy that bouquet of flowers for their loved ones. Then you have the guys who want a girl, and they go after a girl, and they say, this is the best way that I can do it, and so on and so forth. So let's go there, because I don't care about the non-Muslim world. They're going to continue to do it because, like you guys said, it's a money thing, and so on and so forth. The fact is, what does Islam say about najaiz relationships? Let's start there, because I really want them to understand this. And it was funny, me and Hafiz Luqman behind the scenes, when we were coming to the studio, we were talking about like zina and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about zina and all of these things. So I think that's very important. And let's, I think, start there. That what does Islam say about unjust relationships?
Guess I'll start with a bit and then Hafiz can elaborate. Yeah. One thing you have to consider is, what reason are you doing whatever you're doing, right? Every action has its own intention, right? What's your intent behind doing what you're doing?
Right. And
you said haram relationships, or najaiz relationships, one where there's no nikah, one where it's ghair mahram, right? Yeah. What happens in those scenarios, right? The reason why it's important for Muslim men to interact with Muslim women in the presence of a mahram is because in the absence of the mahram, between two people, the third person is
Shaitan. Right.
Right? And that's why there's always a huge fuss or a huge take on why we have to prevent, so to speak, interaction between young Muslim men and young Muslim women, right? Because there has to be some third party present that isn't Shaitan. Right? Yeah. So that's something that you have to consider first. Second is, I don't think, if your reason is that you're doing it for love, I want to get to know this person, I want to love them, that's not love talking, that's your lust. Right?
Very good. Yeah.
Love comes after time.
Yeah.
Right? If you look in, just start with the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam got married at the age of 25.
Yeah.
Before Nubuwah, before I'lan Nubuwah, at the age of 40.
Good catch.
What did he do in 15 years? For those 15 years between 25 to 40 before he gave I'lan of Nubuwah, there is a time gap.
Yep.
He was with Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu anha, Mu'mineen, and between them, they parented children. Yep. And they raised children between those 15 years. If he sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't spend that time, didn't grow to love, and didn't grow that love or those relationships, you wouldn't have kids or you wouldn't have children like Sayyidah Fatima.
MashaAllah.
Right? Sayyidina Ibrahim, Sayyidina Qasim, like them. Right?
Yes, right.
So that love builds over time.
Right.
What you have right now is lust. Right? And that's only one cause for that: Shaitan and waswasa.
So, Hafiz.
If you look at the previous generations, right? I was just listening to this clip actually in the car by the real Shaykh al-Islam al-Muslimin, Allah preserve them.
Ameen.
He was mentioning that the people that came before us, they had much more harsher, severe punishments when it came to certain things.
Right.
So forget about zina. Any major sin, their heads would be chopped off. This is one example.
Yeah.
The reason for this was that, so for our generation to see the look that you were told the tales, you were told of everything that came before you, look at how they turned out to be, and so you don't fall into that. But even if you did fall into that, your punishment is nowhere close to what they had. Right? If you fall into prostration and let out 2 tears, Allah will forgive you if they're sincere.
Yeah.
But the problem is we have forgotten, we have not learned about our history, we have forgotten about what the past has told us.
Right.
Because history is always bound to repeat itself.
Of course.
So when history repeats itself, what ends up happening is that no matter how many times the alims say or we say or whoever says wrong is wrong, until they actually understand their heart, they're never going to.
Right.
The biggest thing with today's society is from day zero, meaning from the time even before a child is born till the time a child is an adult, a lot of times the deen is missing.
Yes.
Whether it be the parents' characteristics, whether it be the upbringing of the child, whether it be the environment that they're fostered in. So when they don't have a concept or an understanding of Islam, they're going to take what they have an understanding and a concept of, because 24/7 they're surrounded by the Western world, by the Western media, by the Western influences. So they're going to take what they know. So they see, okay, hey, everyone's just celebrating a day of love, so I'm going to buy my mother flowers, for example, or I'm going to, I'm going to do something X, Y, and Z. Now, the smart word, the quote-unquote smart Muslim guy from today's day and age is going to be like, I'm looking to get married, so, I'm going to present the sister some flowers. Brother, there's a reason why this wasn't practiced for 1,400 years. Don't be the first one to say, okay, hey, you know what, I'm going to rewrite the history. I have a vision. I'm going to rewrite history here. No, that's not how it's going to be, because when you build upon something that is haram, Allah will never bless it, and it's just going to end up in being haram.
And I think you guys both raised the point. I just want to touch on Hafiz Bilal's point, is when I hear about love, and obviously we go back to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and like when you mention Sayyidatuna Khadija radiallahu anha, when she passed on, it's narrated that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not smile the same way ever again, the way he smiled when Sayyidatuna Khadija was there. And it's just like, it's unbelievable, like how much he loved her. And to your point, that's what he was doing. First, he was working for her and then married her and had 7 beautiful children. And then you're right. It happens. And I don't know what love, again, I go back to this and people think what they know what love is. And it's not, because you're just saying to your point, lust, or it could just be an act of emotion, but nobody can define love. And to Hafiz Yahya's point, I think it's you know what, parents are a lot to blame. For example, Noor's mom said to me that we need to get some stuff because a letter came home and it's from the school and saying that we need 26 Valentines cards. I said no. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I don't send the kids, like when it's Halloween, for example, the kids don't go to school. I'm like, yo, you're not dressing up like a pumpkin. I don't care if it's cute. It's not happening. I'm not going to Valentine's Day because I'm not buying candyograms. I'm not doing it because that's where it starts from. I'm going to give a card saying, will you be my Valentine for Noor? And he's going to go give it to a girl. What am I, even though it's harmless because they're innocent kids, but what am I teaching my child?
Of course, and you're desensitizing them to
Yeah.
the actual sin.
Yeah.
Right? When you start desensitizing, especially with kids, because you say, oh, it's harmless, it's just they're kids and they don't understand anything. Yes, but you're poisoning their minds. You're polluting their minds in the sense that now they're going to look at it different because they've been doing it from a very early age. They're going to continue to do it. And they'll be like, oh, it's harmless. I'm just giving a letter. I'm just giving a flower. I'm giving a chocolate, whatever, okay?
Yeah.
The problem, that's what I said. It starts from very early on.
Yeah.
So now you desensitize these kids so they don't think it's inappropriate.
Right.
Okay? And again, they think that this is love.
Because you're allowing them to do so.
Exactly.
Right.
My dad let me do it when I was a kid, so it's okay. My dad's not going to say anything, or it's perfectly fine. Today's the day of love, for example.
Yeah.
When you talk about the definition of love, there's no universal or one definition. There's different levels of love. For example, the love a mother has for her children. So, that's a different type of love than between a man and a woman, for example. Right. The different love between a creator and his creation. The different type of love that we have between us and our beloved has for us. But the ulama at the end of the day have said that ultimately, or the most purest form of love is when you cannot sit even for an instant, like to take a breath or a blink of an eye, without thinking about them, without seeing them, without being in their presence, or without knowing about them. That, in essence, is the ultimate love. But there's levels to that. Right. I'm not saying tomorrow, go out and start being, out here. What I'm trying to say is that is one description that I take from the religious aspect of it to understand what love is. But there's different levels, right? Yeah. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's how you define your journey through it. Note, for example, you take two sets of parents. The way they show love to each other is going to be totally different. There may be similarities, but their love for each other is a little bit different because that's how they have worked. That's how they built it. For sure. Right? So it's arbitrary, but it's also there's certain boundaries within it.
Right.
And, I think it's important while we're discussing this topic is to consider why we're so adamant against these sort of holidays or, celebrating these. We did a podcast on New Year's. Now we're doing one on Valentine's Day. Why are we so against or why do we have such a strong approach to these holidays or to these events that take place? Right. And you have to consider something is that in Islam, we're set by boundaries and we have to live according to those boundaries. Right. The reason why we don't accept these holidays or we don't make them our own or we don't act on these specific days in the specific ways is because those are not from our religion. Right. And to copy something that is from another religion,
you're from amongst them.
You're from amongst them.
Right.
And that is not allowed for us to do.
Yeah.
Right? So when you say, we can talk about the history a bit of, Valentine's Day, for example. But that's not from our religion.
Yeah.
It is from the
pagans, the Romans and stuff.
Yeah. And from, previous times before our current religion, right?
Yes.
And if we act on that, we are like them.
Yeah.
Right? And we're taking from their religion and implementing into ours.
See, it's beautiful that you touch on. I was going to go that way anyways. Saint Valentine's was a pagan who was a Roman who converted into Christianity, and he was put to death and executed on the 14th of February for what? For pedophilia, for mingling with minors. And this is what this day was named after, and we want to celebrate that. Like, people don't understand, same thing with Christmas and Halloween and so on and so forth. All of these days, to your point, is what I think people need to realize the most is, to your point, Hafiz Bilal, is the Prophet ﷺ said, Abu Dawud Sharif, gives nakal of this hadith. It says anything that is from another religion and you follow that, you're from amongst them, right? So you engage into that. But now here's the kicker: is the Prophet ﷺ came to set these boundaries by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a reason. Now, what is the reason that he ﷺ was engrossed in, for example, the promotion of nikah, and not what the pagans were doing of Makkah at the time, that today, Hafiz Bilal, your wife is mine. Tomorrow, she's Hafiz Yahya's. The day after, she's Hafiz Luqman's. And then comes back to me full circle. And it wasn't even wife, because there was no nikah. It was just, I own you as a woman. And now, it's the Prophet ﷺ comes and says, no, nikah. And this is, I think, the message that people need to hear is why he came and he brought nikah, and why he said mahram, and why he mentioned all of these things as the religion.
Well, the simplest answer is to show us how to be humans. Because to do things without a nikah is the way of the animals.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the way of the animal. That's also another reason, for example, why alcohol is forbidden. Because a man or a woman does not know what they're not in their senses,
Right.
and they could inadvertently commit zina.
Yeah.
So that is another reason. That's why these things came down to set a boundary, to say, hey, you are an insan. Allah created you a certain way. He sent you as an amana in this world. So stay within the boundaries. Do whatever you want in between the boundaries. Do not go, beyond those boundaries, and you will attain one peace. Two, you will attain salvation as well.
Sure.
So, to keep it simple and short, it's to make sure humans stay human.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, women had no rights.
Yeah.
The Arabs of that area, especially Hijaz, they were like savages.
Right. Yep.
They buried young girls alive.
Yep.
So you tell me, in a land of savages, the mercy for all the
MashaAllah.
worlds and universes
MashaAllah.
came down, and he told them, this is how you be humans.
MashaAllah.
So if you want to stay human, you can choose to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or you can choose, and now here's the other hypocritical thing. You mentioned that it's Saint Valentine.
Yeah.
Saint means wali.
Yeah.
You're commemorating a wali.
Yeah.
You don't want to commemorate your own walis, but here you are commemorating a wali, right? So look at the hypocrite. You don't know about your own saints, you don't know about your own famous personalities, but you're okay with celebrating or commemorating some other persons or some other religions, saint. It makes no sense to me.
Absolute hypocrisy. Hafiz Bilal,
I'll just add one more reason onto that is, I think the Prophet ﷺ said, make nikah easy so you can make zina hard.
Wow.
Right? And it's important because, people just think, adultery, so what? It's one of those immoral actions, and the reason we don't think of it as immoral as much anymore is because when we started, Hafiz said this beautifully, is that we've been desensitized, and we've been normalized to accept that which is wrong is now right, or that which is wrong is now the norm, or the standard that we should be upholden to.
Right.
And if you see in today's society, skip the Muslim world, if you look in the areas that we live in, what's prevalent in those is just immorality. Right. You have zina, you have drinking, and it's prevalent because we no longer hold those things as immoral, or as wrong.
The thing is that even in Christianity and Judaism, the Abrahamic faiths, there's only one real Abrahamic faith now, but meaning just for figure of speech, is that there is no one says go date a woman. And the Bible doesn't say it, neither does the Old Testament, whether it's the New Testament, the Gospels, the Quran definitely doesn't say it, to do all of these things. So where are they getting this from under the banner of Christianity and such? Because you see it in all of these. And I'm not painting a brush to Christianity and say, well, they allow it. But somebody allows it to do it and saying it's the norm. You can bring a girl over. You guys can, date and so on and so forth. Why is this allowed in any religion? Because, from the Abrahamic faiths, or so-called Abrahamic faiths. Why is it allowed? Because that's what you see mostly. I don't care about the pagan worshippers and all of that stuff. Why do you see it being allowed or tolerated in society now?
Well, it stems from the preservation of religion.
Right.
When you don't have a religion that is preserved, properly and you have it open to interpretation and you have bad apples that are there for whatever political or whatever motivation they have behind it, they start to influence the way a religion is perceived and the way the rulings are and the way it's reflected. And so that is the thing. And then people take it to very extreme. So for example, the Christians say that, you know what, Jesus died for our sins on the cross. Na'udhu billah. So they think, okay, fine, it's okay for me to drink, it's okay for me to commit adultery or fornicate, it's okay for me to do any of these things. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to attain Jesus' salvation. Right. So when you like I said earlier, you desensitize people first to the sins. You didn't tell them, hey, exactly why this is immoral and what it affects your spirituality and how it affects your spirituality. Because all these actions, there's a reason why Allah said no to them as well. There's a hikmah behind them, not just for you to physically stay away from them, but it goes deeper, because anything you do has an effect not just to you physically, it has an effect to you mentally and spiritually. And the spiritual, the nuqsan or the consequences are much worse than the physical. Right. Yeah. And at the end of the day, in order for you to be in touch with your Creator, that spiritual connection needs to be vibrant, it needs to be alive, it needs to be strong. The second you weaken that, the second you make that very kamzor, you make that very, very weak and frail, the devil's entered. And now it's his playground. Right. So that is the thing. If people influence or people look at differently or misinterpret the way the religion actually told Allah, but they want to interpret to according to how they feel, then they start to add these things, and then they become desensitized, and generations and generations come and they start following these things, or they they make it even worse. For example, Christians started with the whole dating thing, then they went into the alphabet community. Right. So it's I'm sorry, but it's sad, because you see it's a gateway. You open one sin, it starts to go to another, it goes to another, and it starts getting worse and worse. And at the end of the day, who's going to suffer? It's the people at the end of the day, right? Because they're literally going to. I have the Urdu words in my head right now. I don't have the English words, but they're going to ruin their hereafter just for some temporary pleasure in this world. And a lot of people. The last thing I'll say, a lot of people regret after they do these things. They're so hyped up. It's so talked about. So people try it for themselves. They instantly regret it. Because they're like, you know what? Yeah, I was hyped up and everything, but it's not what it seems. And I can see why now I was told to stay away from it.
Hafiz up.
No, I would just say, to summarize all of that, in the absence of preservation, you have perversion. Right? In terms of at least religion and tradition.
So, somebody said to me just recently, and they said that you guys just keep telling us, don't do this, don't do that. And it's not as easy as you guys make it out to be. And there's distractions and there's temptations everywhere. And I started thinking, and I did answer him, but I want to get your guys' take on it. For somebody comes to you and goes, oh, yeah, it's easier said than done. I don't have to talk to a girl. I don't have to do all that. It's easy to say, but come and show me that you can do it as well. It's pretty much what the person was saying all in all. He's saying you don't get it. You're not out there going to school. And you're not out there going to university. And, you have to do projects and you have to mingle with girls and so on and so forth. And then once you start mingling, then, a little bit touching happens and then, you fall in love. Falling in love doesn't happen from just a handshake. We shouldn't be doing it, but meaning it doesn't happen like that. To your point, you allow that to come in and you don't create that boundary and all of that, and then it happens. But this gentleman was very adamant and said, you guys don't get it. It's easier said than done. You don't live now. I said, what am I, dead? But anyways, you don't live now. And
Can I answer that simply?
Yeah.
You are a product of your environment.
Right. Okay?
Prophet ﷺ said, he said that nikah is one of my sunnahs.
Of course.
Right? But if you ask a scholar today, he'll give you this explanation that yes, nikah is sunnah, but for some people it can be wajib.
Of course.
Right?
100%.
You're saying it's easier said than done, but your religion is giving you the easy way out.
Right.
It's saying you don't have to give in to temptation. You don't have to give in to distraction.
Right.
If you have a relationship with your parents such that you can speak about these things and say, you know what, I'm ready for marriage.
Right.
Right? Or, there's a need that I need to get married.
Yeah.
Let's start through there. And that's a process that can start right there.
Right.
But if you don't have that, there's a missing, that sort of aspect is missing. You are a product of your environment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to answer to you, and I want you to tell this person, if you're listening, that's great. When you're driving your car, every day you get up, you wake up in the morning, you get into your car, you're going to work. Why don't you end up at the club? Why don't you end up somewhere else? Why do you drive? You know how to get to your destination. You're focused to get there.
Right.
The same logic applies here. You can choose to be weak, and you can choose to mentally not focus and make every excuse. I get it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, man. Trust me. I'm only 28, so I didn't grow up too long ago, and I'm
There
still.
it is.
Exactly.
He was 28 years old.
So,
People are asking about that, by the way. Sorry, I know you're on a roll there, but 28 years old.
anyways,
Oh,
it is hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, but what I'm trying to tell you is it's your determination.
Of course.
Right? How come you don't, just hit anyone when you're driving? Or if someone's going to swerve into you, you automatically hit the brakes. You're reactive and you're proactive. You're prepared and you're focused. Same thing applies here. If you're focused, for example, in school, you have a project, you have to work with other people of other genders and stuff like that. I get that. But your mind should be, okay, listen, we're here to do the schoolwork or the education, and that's it. It's if you let your mind wander and you let your thoughts get the better of you, that's when you're going to run into these situations and you're going to fall into the temptation.
I think, okay, so I mean, I did answer him, and I did say, like, similar to what Hafiz was saying, I think it's mind over matter, and I think that's very important. But nowadays, what happens is, I'll be honest with you, we keep blaming the guys and such, but the girls are just as bad. And I'm sorry, I'm going to ruffle some feathers, and some of these Me Too movement people might say something and whatever. But I'll be honest with you, I think it's to the point now how disgusting I've heard it be right now is that our Muslim girls who are quote unquote hijabis and wearing abayas to school and stuff are probably the worst out there for this. Because they're influenced by the Western society and such, and they want a boyfriend, they want to do whatever, they want to find their own man, and so on and so forth. And then what happens is they're constantly persuading, and they're not giving up, and they're persuading the man to whatever fall in. That's what he was saying. He says, I say no, but they don't stop, and you don't get it. And I didn't say too much in that regards, and I said, listen, you have the ability to control all of this and not give in, because whether you want to go on a date, whether you want to do all these things, whether you want to commemorate Valentine's, whether you're getting gifts from girls on Valentine's Day and so on and so forth, whether it's high school students and so on and so forth, you have to understand that Islam came for respect and honor for everybody. And I think that's the message what people don't really understand, is that the honor and respect the Prophet ﷺ gave you, the treasures and the fruit of that harvest. When you accomplish something, for example, you control your nafs and you have nikah, and after nikah you have, look at the Prophet ﷺ had 7 beautiful children. One of them is the Queen of Paradise, and all of this stuff. And then the goal, you don't see it until the end. And that's what people, I think, don't realize is you do something today, you're going to regret it, right? And I think that's the biggest message. What did you say to our sisters who are still also mingled in this? And the boys, I'm going to go watch the boys basketball game. And I'm going to go, see Oak because that guy's cute. And I want to, the girls too. We need to address it to the girls. I went to go watch the boys basketball game because I like this guy and I think he's cute. So I'm going to go and, cheer him on. What would you say to the girls as well? Because I think they need a little bit of
what we've said so
up.
far should be applied irrespective of gender. It's not limited to just the male audience.
Yeah.
It applies to both.
Right.
It takes 2 parties to tango.
Yeah.
Right? Hafiz says that a lot.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way that only one person in a sort of relationship gets to do everything, says everything, and has control over everything.
Yeah.
It's 2 parties.
Right.
You also have a will and you also have a say. Hafiz said it again already. When you're driving the car, you've trained yourself or you've already practiced. You're in the environment now and you can make the smart decisions. When you don't make the smart decisions, that's when you end up making a mistake. You end up in an accident, you end up hitting a curb, you do something like that, right? That's when you're not concentrated or you have the untrained mind.
Right.
The same thing applies here. You have the untrained mind, and the brother was saying, it's easy, or it's easier said than done, and the females are very strong-minded, or they want this or they want that.
Yeah.
Just remove yourself from the equation.
Right.
I'm gonna add on to this. Okay, brother, you may have it hard, but trust me, I'm gonna tell you that I have had it harder, and I'll give you the reason why, and my brother can relate. growing up, I went to madrasa very early on, became a Hafiz, alhamdulillah. But the thing is, when you become a Hafiz, people don't tell you what the expectations of you are.
Right.
Meaning that anything you do gets micro-scrutinized.
Yeah.
Right? Micro-scrutinized by the community in general.
Right.
So if you think you have it bad where it's just between you and Allah, we have thousands of eyes on us at any given moment of the day.
Yeah.
Right? So now, I didn't understand, and I can speak probably on your behalf too. When you graduate, you become a Hafiz, alhamdulillah, that's good. But you don't know, okay, you know, society holds you to a certain level. Your behavior is supposed to be like this and X, Y, and Z, right? And when you don't even uphold to like the smallest degree, they get very upset, or they start, you become the scapegoat, right? Yeah. You become the talking point of the community.
Right.
Now, did that in a way help me? No, it actually made me rebel at times, right? Because I'm like, why is there a microscope over my head thinking, okay, why do I always have to be like this? Because then it feels like I'm doing it to please people. I'm not doing it because I want to do it and I want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Right.
Then I also understand I can't actually argue with these people because some of the things they say, or a lot of things that the observations that they might make are true and they have a religious backing, so I can't argue with it.
Right.
So the next step was for me to now start understanding actually the religion. Okay, I get their method, the way they're doing it, the way they're observing, the way they're telling you and nagging you and critiquing you is wrong.
Right.
But you also need to start understanding, okay, what is your expectations as a Muslim, first of all?
Right.
Forget about being a Hafiz. Right. What is your expectations as a Muslim? What do you need to know? What do you need to understand and have required as knowledge? And if you fulfill those, you'll see and you'll learn along the way exactly how to stay away from these. Once you learn the dangers of something, right, you're going to stay away. The simplest example is if you take a kid who's never seen fire before, you tell him, put your hand over. He's going to put his hand.
Right.
But when he gets burnt or he feels the heat the first time, he's never going to do it again.
Right.
It's the same thing, right? If you know and you understand truly, right, why something is bad for you, why it's forbidden,
right,
it should be very easy for you to stay away.
Right.
You know, and I'll add on to that is, you know, I was 13, I believe, when I first started leading Salah. Right? Leading Salah. Right? You know, graduated, I had some knowledge, I know how to pray Salah, I know how to lead Salah.
Right.
Right? But you don't get into the nooks and crannies of things until you reach that stage. Right? I'll give you an example. You know, people would come up and say, hey, you're not allowed to lead in a short sleeve jubbah. Right. If your sleeve is below your elbow, you're not allowed to lead with that on. Or you shouldn't be praying with that on. You would ask why, they couldn't give you the answer.
Right.
But then, later on, as time progresses, you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's something behind what they're saying. If one person says it, inshallah, it might not be such a significant thing. Right. But if multiple people are telling you the same thing, there might be some significance behind it. And then you realize, hey, look, the reason why you want to at least cover your elbow in Salah is just for adab. Right? And when we pray, we want to have the utmost adab because you're talking to who?
Allah.
Right. It takes time and it takes knowledge to reach that understanding that, hey, you know what, this is something that I need to focus on. This is something that I need to work on.
Right.
When people are telling me something like this. And the same thing applies in different scenarios like this one, for example, right? Yeah. People are telling you don't do this, don't do that. Same thing. Maybe there's a significance behind what they're saying. Have you thought about seeing that perspective or understanding that perspective as well before you come to your own conclusion, or before you become rebellious or before you make that stand for it?
Right. So I find society now wants. So let's say the guy waits and he does all of this and he does it the right way, but in his mind he has a picture of who he wants to marry and who he wants his wife to be. Now he goes to his mom or his dad. He's doing it the right way, like you guys are mentioning. And in his mind, he wants, growing up here, he has an image of his wife that he wants his mom to find for him. That image that he wants is befitting to the society and how society portrays women. Is that also fair too? So let's say the same individual that we're talking about now, wants to say, okay, I won't do what you guys are, I'll listen to what you guys are saying, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to remove myself and so on, concentrate, like you guys are saying. And I'm going to follow what you guys are saying. I'm going to follow what the Sharia says. But in my mind, I want a girl a certain way. And I guess you can hint to what I'm getting at, is there has to be a certain type, whether it's figure, mental state, all of that. I want that because now I'm doing what you want, but I want to fulfill that that way. What would you say to that guy there? I'll listen to you, but I want this, but I'm not getting it.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. If you want that type of woman, and same goes for the females, you want that type of a guy.
Right.
Know one thing. You have to be like that to get that. Now, the thing is, if you aren't like that, but you want that, you're not going to get it, or even if you do, it's going to be very toxic in your relationship because you have two different mentalities and they're going to clash.
Right.
You have two different wants, you have two different requirements, you have two different of everything. And you come from two different walks of life, and they're not peaceful. They're going to clash. So you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're going to set up your kids for failure, and you're going to break your own household at a very summarized level. I'm telling you,
Right.
Because I've seen those cases. We've heard those cases before too.
Many times.
That the guys like this or the girls like this. There's a reason why you should marry, and here's the funny thing: when you actually start learning about how you should look for a spouse or the qualities you should look for in a spouse. And you actually truly, believe in that, your view on having that, or your view of your potential spouse will change as well with that.
Right.
And so you'll start with, okay, I wanted a certain something like this, but you're going to end up with, okay, I actually want this because it's actually better for me.
Right.
Yeah. What may look good next to me is not necessarily what is good for me.
Hashtag that. That's good though. It's smart. Hafiz, what would you say?
I'll say, when you're thinking about all these standards of what you want your spouse to be, regardless of how you're going about it, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, whether it's the right person or the wrong type of person, think about what's going to happen 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line if Allah gives you that life, or Zindagi gives you.
Yeah.
What's going to happen later on? Your ideal case, let's just say, for example, person, I want my kids to be knowledgeable, understanding. I want them to be observant of the deen.
Yeah.
I want them, let's see, for example, I want them to be Adams, or I want them to be Hufaz, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's your end goal, or that's what you want to see your kids to be, or that's the ideal household that you want. I want to have this sort of relationship with my wife, or like this, or husband.
Right.
Work backwards. What do you need in a spouse or a partner to get there?
Yeah.
You're not going to get that with a random Jane or John off the street.
Right.
It takes specific qualities to build a household. If you want more examples, take a look at the people around you. Take a look at the households around you. What do they have that you want? And what could you implement in what the person that you want will give you?
We often get told that we are backwards minded.
That's true.
We often get told that. We're backwards minded, arranged marriages, and all of these things. But just touching on that aspect, it says, when they say, "Main sudhar jaunga," I will straighten up after 30. And then I'll settle down, right? But let me have my fun now. And, if there's a girl who likes me, let me have my fun now. And I will be. Kind of like the same concept when people say, oh, I'm too young to go for Hajj. I'll go for Hajj after, so then I'll be good. The same mentality is happening to our men and our women now, because they're so heavily influenced in obviously what the West is giving out to them. And what would you guys say to that kind of mentality? Let me do what I got to do now, and then I'll, let me have a girlfriend. So what? I'm not harming you. Why are you guys always on our cases? Because that's what we get told, right? Like, you guys are just like the haram police. We're not the haram police, right? It's just saying that we've seen people throw their lives away, and whether that girl that they wanted or whatever that they ended up marrying has left them now. They're divorced. They live by themselves. The kids don't like them. And we've seen it in many, many households. I'm sure you guys can name off probably 100 family members. I can as well. Is that you went down that road, you picked that girl, you know that girl that was your girlfriend, now you married her, now she can't stand to look at you because you're fat and ugly and you sit on the couch. And this is what it's come to in reality. So what would you say to that? Let me have my fun now. And then after, dekha jayega. We'll see what happens.
If you can guarantee that you'll live tomorrow, for 24 hours, you can give me that guarantee written. That you're going to live for the next 24 hours, I'll give you a free pass to do whatever you want.
Right.
But if you have that mentality, what's going to end up happening is, okay, tomorrow and the next year, okay, by the time I get 30, 40, it's never going to end up happening.
Right.
The saying, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
Right? Or some say old dogs die hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's that. Because if you have that, that
you might have a will to change, but your laziness within you is saying, okay, you know what? No, tomorrow. We got time next year, or 30, 40, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're never going to actually start making that change. And when the actual time comes, it's going to be too late. And that's when you're going to regret. And that's the worst thing. And a lot of people, if you ask people that are older now, in the 50s and 60s, ask them if they could give themselves some advice. And what would they tell you? They say, okay, I wish I didn't waste time in my 20s and 30s.
Huh.
And that's the first thing they'll tell you. Right? So it's the same thing. Okay, fine. If you don't find my answer satisfactory, go talk to your grandparents or someone that's older than you, that's past your age, and that has lived through this era or lived through that era, and tell them, if you were to look back, what would you tell yourself? Like 3 pieces of advice. And they'll tell you the exact same thing.
Right.
The change, if it doesn't start today, it probably will not happen tomorrow.
Yes.
It needs to start from today, because these are not small changes you're making. You're making very, very hard changes that they take time to happen too.
Right.
So now here's the thing. Let's say tomorrow you wanted to change, but you didn't make it till tomorrow.
Wow.
Then what?
Right. Yeah.
And I know some of you are still going to say only God can judge me. Yes, only God can judge me. But the thing is,
Brother, you say if you're going to lay claim to be a part of something, whether it's being a Canadian, whether it's being Muslim, whether it's a part of being a religion, whatever it is, you need to truly believe in it and act accordingly.
Right.
You cannot just, otherwise it's just hypocrisy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I know it's tough, but that was the blessing, especially for this ummah, that they were supposed to struggle. It was supposed to be hard. And every time you struggle, just think of Allah. Allah, make it easy. That's all. Just in your heart, just Allah, make it easy for me.
Right.
And eventually you'll find the way, right? But you have to take that first step.
Right.
Tomorrow's too late. Right? And I'll give an example.
Hafiz always comes with these little It's like a huge pause, and then because I think, do I jump in now? Or?
No, I was gonna add on anyway. That's why I cut you off. So I'm building the time so it fills in the YouTube algorithm and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no. But an example a teacher always used to tell me is, take a dog's tail. Right? Is it ever straight? It's always curved, or it's always wagging. It's always some sort of form. It's never a straight line. That tail's never straight.
Yeah.
You put it under a rock for 100 years, it's not gonna be straight. That dog's tail will always be tera. That's what we used to say, tera, like curved or different deformed, way. Or
I got you.
Right? It's that exact same concept.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I was saying. Tomorrow's too late.
And the metaphor to the dog's tail is, no matter how much you do, you're not going to straighten it. Is that I didn't understand?
No, the dog's tail is always curved. You'll see it. The dog's tail is never straight. So if you put it under something to flatten it, right?
It's not going to. It's not
going to. External force won't change.
Okay.
Right?
MashaAllah.
So unless the dog wants to make it straight, it's not going to be straight. And the reason why I'm laughing so much is because I used to get told this every day. Every day in madrasa, right? Kutte ki dum kabhi seedhi nahi hogi. That's what they used to say, right? And they'd be like, stop being like the dog's tail.
Right.
Again, we didn't understand it at that point, but now it's just like, wow, okay, what you said in that one sentence spoke volumes. I was just, I was dumb at the time and I was a child, so I didn't understand. But now it speaks volumes.
There's a second point to that too. So first was that no matter any amount of external pressure, external force won't change that dog's tail. The second is you have to know your own limits. Even if that dog wanted to change the shape of its tail, it's very, very hard for it to do so. I don't think it's possible for a curved tail to become straight for the rest of its life. So that's the other thing that you also have to realize is within your limits, you have to know what you're able to change in yourself.
Right.
Subliminal message here. Straight folks, don't become curved. That's all I'm going to say.
No, I think, let me just ask you guys this. I think about this all the time. We have these podcasts. We give out nasiya, and I think it's good nasiya that we're giving out. And I think it comes from a good place. I said some people that we know have made mistakes, and we share those mistakes so people can learn from them. But why do we care? Why do we care to say them, don't celebrate Valentine's Day, don't do any of this? I'll tell you my own thing, and I guess I'll start with myself, is I know how beautiful this deen is once we started to put it as a priority in life. The minute that we prioritize this, when we're running a madrasa or the center, or doing these podcasts, or dealing with the public, or whether it's for you guys leading Taraweeh, doing Naat Khani, whatever it is, something makes you come and do this, or being so engrossed in the deen. Like, I love the religion. And I just want people to love it as well and see the beauty of it. Maybe learn from mistakes that have been done by the message that we give them. But if somebody says, yeah, why do you care? Let me do what I got to do. Why do you care about that? What would you say? Because that's a big thing. Like, who cares? I'm going out with my girl. Why do you care?
Ad-deenun nasiha. Right? The religion is meant to be a learning and sort of growth experience for each individual. That's one point. Second is, you're saying, why should we care about what some random person is doing down the street? One thing that you have to understand is that in Islam, you're taught to not only care about yourself, but you're also told to care about those around you, your brothers, your sisters. You shouldn't even go to sleep knowing that your neighbor is hungry.
Of course.
Right? So that's just one thing. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ.
Yeah.
Right? If I see a Muslim brother down the road doing something that I know or that I have experience will take him down the wrong area, slippery slope, take him into somewhere where he can't return or where he's going to regret. I'm going to do my job. And I feel that is my right, and that is the case, is that it is your right upon your brother to inform him in a good way. Yeah. Don't come at him in a wrong way or in a wrong demeanor, but come at him in the right way and explain to him why what he's doing is going to go down that wrong path. Right. That becomes your right over your brother. Right. That's one aspect. Personally, if you ask me why I find, giving nasiha, why do I teach madrasa, for example, I find that in what you preach, you're setting yourself a standard to practice it, right? You personally, you have experience as well. How many times have you taught material over the past 3 years and all it's done is solidify what you know and what you want to build on?
100%.
Right? How many times have you taught Fardul Ain? Fardul Ulum classes, right? Kitab al-Tahara. For example, I'm just saying. How many times have you
You'll be shocked how many people don't know how to make wudu properly. You will be shocked.
Right. But in teaching Kitab al-Tahara, one, you've benefited others. That's your ajr in the akhirah. If they act on it, that is also your thawab. The second is it's for your own benefit as well, for your own betterment. In teaching Kitab al-Tahara numerous times, you've learned it inside and out now. Yeah. Right? It's for your own benefit at the end of the day as well.
Right.
I'm going to add two things here. One is that Allah says that the believers are a reminder for one another in the Quran. Right? So when I slip up, you are my reminder. When you slip up, I am your reminder. Yeah. Okay? You early on said you don't know what love is. I think you found your answer. This is love. That is the love you have for your Muslim brother or sister, to care for them enough for them to say, hey, this is a piece of advice that I want to give you, right? Or you're trying to help them correct their wrong actions, right? So that is also a form of love, and Allah loves that.
Right.
To add to the hadith that Hafiz Bilal was talking about, the Prophet ﷺ also said that every man is a shepherd for the people around him. He has a flock of sheep around him. Yeah. And same thing, all the people, they're their own shepherds, and the people around them are like the sheep, the flock of sheep. Right. So we're all responsible for one another, because on the day of judgment, we're going to be questioned about this too. Yeah. That, hey, okay, you prayed, you did this, you fasted, you did all your pillars and your deeds. What about the guy beside you? You used to pray beside him every day in the masjid. You didn't even care to say salam to him or ask him how his day is going or what he's going through in life. Right? What's the point? Right. So it's also about love at the end of the day. So that should be your focus, that should be the answer to your question, is that why do I care? Because I love people. I care for them. And I want to see people succeed. I don't want to see anyone, go to hellfire or go the wrong path. Right. Because at the end of the day, that hurts me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
sorry to cut you off there. What's that saying? I am my brother's keeper.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to this perfectly.
He does not keep anything.
Keeper in the terms that you want to make sure that he's on the right path, right? You want to make sure that what he's doing is always going to benefit him and never something that he regrets later on.
And here's the other thing then, just before we conclude, is what keeps you motivated knowing that there's so many people out there that regardless of what we say or what you say or what I say, is going to continue to do whatever they want. What keeps you motivated to send the message out to say, guys, like let's wake up? You know, and like Valentine's Day. And you know what the thing is that bothers me the most is that our community, the ones who are married and have wives, they're also doing this. And that's like just a punch in the mouth, because like you're adding on to this. And if you have children, they're seeing it and so on and so forth. And it's just a snowball effect and so on and so forth. But what keeps you guys motivated to even give this nasiha or to talk about it or to do all this? Because we could just say, whatever. Somebody goes into hellfire, go hellfire. You know, I have to go to my own qabr. You know, because we hear that a lot. Like, I'm going to into my qabr and I have to answer the 3 questions.
You're going to your qabr, we're going to Hashr.
Yeah.
So, you know, he might go into oneself for a while, but we're all going to go to the same final destination.
It's one prison block.
Exactly.
It's true.
Right.
But what keeps you motivated
I guess I'll start.
to do the good thing, to do the right thing, to give the nasiha, to not want people to do all these things and throw their lives away?
I find this is probably the maqsad or the basis that we started the council in the first place.
Right.
7-8 years ago, however long it's been. Probably even longer than that.
Yeah.
And you guys already touched on it. It's Hashr, right? At the end of the day, when we wake up for the last time, and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam comes and asks, or Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala asks, what did you do for my religion? What did you do for my deen? You claim to be a Muslim. What did you do that showed it? Or what did you leave behind as a mark on this dunya?
Right.
And let this be the case, that we have a platform. Why not use it to benefit others?
Right.
Let that be our motivation, that we want to use this platform to benefit others.
Absolutely. How
See, the thing is, if we don't continue to give the message or to motivate people or to inspire or to advise people, we're failing them. And we can't do that.
Right.
Because, one, we're responsible and we're accountable for each other, like we said.
Yeah.
Right? But 2 is that at the end of the day, I can't go to sleep at night knowing I failed someone.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit right with me. Right? When I was back in the madrasa days, like, teachers, I swear I felt bad for them because their mouths, like, I feel their mouths are tired for the amount of yelling they used to do at me specifically, right? And so, they would never stop.
Yeah.
Never stop them from telling me, you know, this is the right thing. Stop doing this. Stop doing this. Okay.
Right.
I didn't understand that at that time. Growing up, I'm thankful because I'm like, you know what? Despite whatever I put them through, I changed.
Right.
I didn't end up, you know, the way I would have if no one told me or if they just stopped telling me.
Right.
Right. So it's okay. Maybe you might not change after me telling you one time, 100 times, and maybe at the 1,000,000th time. Right? You might. The other thing is I'm following the sunnah of my Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. He never stopped preaching no matter how hard it got.
Yeah.
Whether it was the people of Taif, whether it was the different people that declared war against him, whatever came his way.
Yeah.
Right?
Mashallah.
It doesn't matter. He taught you persevere and you always look out for your brother and sister, and that's exactly what we're doing. Right. Because that is our commitment to our religion and to our creator.
And I also believe that that, you know, obviously doing all these things, we want to see the ummah succeed and we want to see people succeed and we want to see people benefit in a good way and see the fruits of their harvest and enjoy that fruit later on in life when you do things the right way, because we know about it, we read about it. Us saying otherwise is obviously hypocritical in that manner. But I think that the best part about all of this is that I think it was Imam Malik radiallahu anhu, when someone asked him and said, how do I build taqwa? And he said 2 things. He said, learn fiqh, and second, change your inner circle. And that, when I heard that just volumes. I can proudly say that my inner circle is, alhamdulillah, all Muslims. And like Hafiz Bilal says, I teach fiqh probably more than anybody that I know. So I'm always doing that. But it's like in Ramadan, you're driving, Hafiz Saab, and you're fasting, you have a ball of water, you're very thirsty, and you don't touch that ball of water. Why? Like, why don't you touch it or drink from it? Nobody's watching, nobody's doing anything. But yet you want to go out and you want to do all these things after the fact, you know? And we're going to get to Ramadan and all that. But that's my point is you can do it in the month of Ramadan because you won't. No one's watching you drive in and this and that. Like anybody who knows me knows I have water bottles galore in my truck and I'm driving and I have a bottle of water and I don't drink from it and I'm fasting. Why? What stops me from doing that? It's the same thing that stops me from not committing zina outside. And Islam came to purify the soul and the body and the mind. And that's the thing that people don't realize is that the punishment of zina could hurt you. You do it today and the pleasures of it. And then tomorrow, we know so many people, and it breaks my heart, is that they were like that in the past. And now they're urging to have a child and Allah is not giving them a child. And they're making mannat and they're doing all these things and so on and so forth. Is your punishment, you might not see it today. Today, a little bit of a pleasure with a girl in a hotel room because you thought she was in love with you and then you don't even end up marrying her anyways because that just wears off. And all of a sudden, now when you're ready and, you know, to your point, Hafiz, 30 years have gone by or whatever, you're at 30 or plus 30 and now you're, you know, good now and sudar gaya and now you want to have a child and you can't have one. This is the sad reality of it, that your punishment, you don't know what action that you're doing that is so displeasing to Allah. You know that what you're doing is wrong. Nobody can sit there and tell me that sex before marriage is jaiz in Islam. If somebody comes to me and says, oh, I didn't know that, honestly, like you live under a rock. It's like saying stealing is haram, halal. Anyways, long story short, sorry, I'm going on a banter. But I'm just saying the fact that, and I'll turn it over to you guys, and we can conclude, is you don't know what sin or error or mistake that will take you from heaven to hell. Look at the Bedouin that the Prophet ﷺ talked about, the one who did zulm against a cat. She was praying 5 times a day, gave zakat, fasted in the month of Ramadan, went for Hajj, all of that thing. Everybody applauded her when she passed away. And the Prophet ﷺ says she went to Jahannam because she did zulm on a cat. And look at the opposite in the prostitute of the time of Sayyidina Musa. She was completely opposite. And she looked after a thirsty dog and Allah took her to think. That doesn't mean that all prostitutes are going to go to Jannah. It just means you don't know what action from your heart that you did that takes you from one place to another.
I think to summarize, it's very simple. We need to stop falling trapped to the Western days of celebration and stuff.
No.
If you understand your religion, every day is a celebration of love. Every day is a celebration of love for the people around you, whether it's your mother, whether it's your father, whether it's your brother, sister, your wife, husband, whoever it is. Yeah. Every day is a celebration of love. You don't need to single out one day to do it, right? That just goes to show you have no time, or you know what, you guys are too busy.
Yeah.
Then there's a bigger problem. Right? So and the more you learn, like I said, it's small steps. Just learn one thing. Okay, fine. You don't want to learn at the end of the day before you go to sleep. The half an hour or whatever you spend on your phone going through Instagram or whatever it is, spend that writing down what you did today. 10 good things, 10 bad things.
MashaAllah.
And you reflect on yourself.
MashaAllah.
And you always try to make it so that you've always done more good deeds than bad deeds. MashaAllah. And eventually that list of bad deeds will grow shorter and shorter
MashaAllah.
and shorter. And if you don't know what constitutes as a good deed or bad deed, then why don't you sit with someone that does?
Right.
You don't have to go to the scholar, but go to someone that knows and approach them and ask them. Right? It's very simple. Do small steps and you will see a big change eventually.
MashaAllah.
I'm not telling you, you know what, it's going to be like this, the flick of a finger or, you know, the snap of a finger and you're going to be able to change over time. No, that's not how it works. Right? So it's the same thing. It's small steps, but you need to figure out those small steps and you need to understand and strategize. Right? I know you're going to say it's easier said than done. I don't know how much easier I can make it for you. You know, we always tell people our lines, our doors are always open. We can sit. We've had conversations with people for 5 hours at times to come to a conclusion. Yeah, you know. Absolutely. But we don't have a problem giving you that. However, you have to make that first step, right? So I get it. It's hard. It's going to be difficult. No one said it was going to be easy. Right. But look at the people that succeeded and use their method of success and just tailor it to yourself.
MashaAllah. Very good, Nasiya.
You were speaking about consequences of actions.
Right.
You know, you never know when one action or what you've done to someone may affect where you're going to end up from where you
100%,
are,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'll just end on this nasiha, I guess, is that every night before you sleep, make this dua or make this sincerely in your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you say, "Oh Allah, I forgive those who have hurt me, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, and oh Allah, enable those who I have hurt to forgive me, whether I've hurt them knowingly
Allah.
or unknowingly." Because, you know, you just mentioned, like, you know, with those, you know, they're doing the haram relationships, for example, they went to the hotel one night and then he left her, they hurt her. You never know what you've done to someone that may end up, you know, affecting you negatively in the future, right?
Right.
So always just end your night, or, you know, sleep on that dua, is that forgive those who have hurt you first of all, and then ask Allah to enable those that you have hurt
MashaAllah.
to forgive you as well.
Go
The
ahead.
biggest medication that I can tell you right now is open your phone, delete Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever apps there are, and you'll see, one, temptations are going to be reduced. Two, you're going to have a lot more time to yourself. Three, you're not going to be, you know, wandering down that path, and you're not going to be even opening the door for you to have that excuse to say it's hard out here, right? You'll understand this once you do the social media cleanse.
Yeah, yeah.
Get off of the social media, and you'll see drastically how your life improves.
100%. Some people are just like addicted to it, right? And it's just, and I think that's very good nasiha from the both of you. I just want to conclude with asking one last thing from you guys, if you don't mind, and then we will conclude. Is what do you think in regards to telling the people about how they can, I guess, live in society? Just so maybe a 2-liner, 3-liner. How they can live in this society amongst the people and not fall trap. What nasihat would you give to them about living a life in the West, holding on to that life, and as well as holding on to the deen? Is it doable? Can you do it? What is your nasihat to them?
Say, you know, take a bird's eye view of yourself. Take the outer perspective of yourself. Where you are currently and what you're associating with, and where you want to be.
Right.
You know, whether that's to be more religious, you know, whether that's to stay away from, you know, zina, or stay away from, you know, getting into haram relationships, for example. See what it is. You know, Hafiz, I've mentioned one thing, social media, for example. See what it is that's taking you there.
Right.
See what it is that's leading you there, and remove that. Or take the steps or take the initiative to start staying away from it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people that, you know, Muslim youth nowadays that aren't doing these haram relationships, for example, you'll find that on social media. They don't have much going on.
Right.
Right? They either don't have it on their phones, or when they do have it, they're just using it to message other people.
Right.
Right? They've already excluded that part of themselves away from them.
Right.
Right? So it's just, you know, take that step back, see what it is that's taking you from there and keeping you from where you want to be.
Right.
And just make the initiative and take the initiative to get started on that process.
And Hafiz Bilal is always available for anybody watching, just to, you know, if you need that little one-on-one conversation, you know. Hafiz Bilal is very good at very sound, like, you know, his tone very soothing. You'll be, you know, cleansed by that in an instant.
You're opening the door for something.
I was gonna close it.
We had a podcast on this before.
Hafiz, your nasihat to them about all of this, and put it all together for them.
Look, at the end of the day, we talk about change. You can brag about it, you can write about it, you can give lectures about it as much as you want, but it needs to come from within you. It's that laziness that's killing you, right? The same way you have that strive to make money or to do well in life, it's the same strive or the same drive that you should have in terms of trying to be a better person, right? Trying to be a better individual. How do you do that? Okay, you're not going to go from $0 to $1 billion overnight. It takes time,
of course,
right? Same thing, but it's small calculated steps. And most people, it's the laziness that doesn't allow them to do this. That, you know what, how do I, like where Hafiz Bilal said, where I'm right now, or where I want to get to, where I want to go, how do I strategize that, right? If you want to strategize that, call his line. He's available 24/7, right? But jokes aside, right? It's that laziness. If you defeat that laziness, you're your greatest enemy.
course.
At the end of the day. Because on the day of judgment, shaitan's going to say to Allah that I whispered to him, but he listened to it. Right? Yeah. So I just threw him the temptation, but he actually fell into it. Yeah. So now who's to blame? Right? Yeah. So you can try to scapegoat shaitan, but he's already got an excuse ready and it's going to work.
Smarter than you already know
exactly. Yeah. Right? He was the ustad of the malaika.
Of course.
So this is not some, the devil is not dumb. The devil is very smart and he works in meticulous ways.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, think of it. Where do you want to end up? Do you want to be in Jannah forever? And what's your plan to get there? Be a go-getter, but what's your plan? How are you going to do it? Yeah. And if you need help strategizing that, by all means, Hafiz Bilal again, right? But like I said, lose the laziness, and you will have that drive to be able to, inshallah, be successful and generate your plan for success.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. That was our take on Valentine's Day. Obviously, a day of love in Islam. Every day is a day of love to the right person. Hopefully, that this has been beneficial for everybody. Look, we never said it's going to be easy. Like Hafiz Yahya has quoted, obviously, and this is a mission amongst the Muslim, that anyone who came to the Prophet ﷺ asked about anything, and the message was always about what have you prepared for yourself in regards to the end of times, whether it's struggle is always going to be there. The Prophet ﷺ struggled more than anybody. And that's something that we all need to realize, is that our struggle is social media. Our struggle is girls. Our struggle is whatever, zina, adultery, so on and so forth, gambling, drugs, alcohol. The struggle of the Prophet ﷺ was to bring this beautiful religion to this level, and where we have billions of Muslims, and it's growing. This was the mission that the Prophet ﷺ set out, and it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to do all that. The problem is, one last thing I will say is, either you paint a picture and represent Islam the right way, or don't call yourself a Muslim. Don't call yourself a person who is a Muslim and paint a picture badly. Let that soak in. We represent Islam. We represent the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. At least keep that in mind. Whenever something happens, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At any given time, He's there to help. Jazakallah to the Hufaz. Another
one thing. So
if
you got a few extra dollars laying around and you're going to spend it on Valentine's, go to your nearest masjid, put it in the sadaqah or the lillah box. Instead of spending it in the wrong way, at least you spent it in the path of Allah, and that be a salvation for you on the day of judgment and akhirah. So instead of doing something wrong, try to turn to something right. So at least you don't have the sustenance to do that. So you made an excuse for yourself.
MashaAllah. Right? Hafiz Sahib is always I don't know, he's killing season 3, I'm not gonna lie. So it's mashallah, he's a fan favorite. But mashallah, always think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's there to help you. We're here to help you. Hafiz Bilal's 24/7. Hafiz Yahya 12/7.
No. You got
12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
My line is forwarded to Hafiz Yahya.
But we're here to help, and if that's what you need, we're always here to help and support. Until next time, Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.